with Doug and you're on Sonshine. I have with us Haleigh Gray, who is a dietitian, and she's joining us today to talk about nutrition advice and how it can be confusing. How you doing, my friend?
Excellent. Thank you for having me.
It's good to have you with us now. Why does nutrition advice sometimes feel overwhelming?
Yes, good question. Nutrition often feels confusing and a bit overwhelming because it is a genuinely complex subject. It sits as this intersection of biology, behavior, culture, socioeconomics, environment, psychology. And so when you're working across that many factors, it's very hard to come up with sweeping, simple answers that will work for everyone.
Yeah. Okay. So it's sometimes finding that right advice is difficult. If we can't find advice that works for everyone, what is the challenges that, because the advice seems to keep changing, I suppose, like my needs as a 51-year-old male is probably different to a 31-year-old mum or something like that, physically and what they need.
Yeah, so advice does change because nutrition is a science.
Yep.
And science isn't static, it's always evolving. And so recommendations change over time, not because the science was unreliable before, but it's constantly being refined as we learn more. And that's science doing what science should do. And there's no one size fits all advice as a result. And it's because of those factors I listed previously. But you can have two people that eat the exact same food, bite for bite, and they could have very different health outcomes due to genetics, exercise habits, lifestyle habits, life stage, their broader health environment, just to name a few. And then the other reason nutrition advice feels so contradictory is because it's not just science, it's also very personal. Yeah. So we all eat.
Yes, we do.
We all have an opinion about what we should eat.
That's right.
Many of us do. And so it's tied to culture, family fabric, upbringing experiences, body image, and some of us even our identity. And so when recommendations change and then maybe policies change, that can sometimes feel confronting or judgmental. Especially if we've held rigid beliefs about what we should or shouldn't be eating. Yeah.
Is there sort of one diet that fits all, or is it kind of, because sometimes I think some of that can be dictated by social media, like what's trending and what you find. Is there kind of like a generic overall, this is a good diet to eat, or is it like find what works for you?
Yeah. There is a lot of nutrition noise out there. And unfortunately, those platforms tend to really elevate an extreme and oversimplified message. And so you've either got this extreme diet or a really watered down version that, what does that actually mean for me? A good baseline place to start is the National Dietary Guidelines, eating the 5 food groups. But then there's nuances, and that's where working with a health professional like a dietitian can be helpful. Okay.
So if I was to go and see a dietitian, how do they look at my needs? This might be an off-track question for you, but how do they look at my needs specifically? Is it they look at my past history? Do they look at my goals? Like how would a dietitian work out a way of eating for me?
Yeah, they would definitely assess you as a whole person. So like I said, you'd talk about your family history, you talk about your current health history, your goals, and then your lifestyle habits, because it's not just one food or even just your diet alone that's going to affect the health outcomes. So we have to look at it holistically on all those aspects. And then also, where are you at in your life stage? Even socioeconomics, like what are you going to be able to afford to eat, and what's going to be practical? Do you have family? We don't want to see you having to eat something that's completely different than the rest of your household, for instance. Those are the things they'll kind of work through and nut out what's going to work for you right now, and maybe you can make slow changes. Dietitians are really great at behavior change, and that's a huge part of being able to stick with a habit long term.
Yeah, that's so good. Now, we were just talking before about how it can be overwhelming, about how all of us need to have different, advice to tailored to our individual needs, and the importance of, having that conversation with a dietitian and finding that things that are going to work well for us. Haleigh, when it comes to nutritional advice, how do we take advice without feeling, overwhelmed or having to overhaul everything in our life or world.
Yes, definitely in this day and age, it is information overload. So I encourage people, and I even do this myself, that when I hear information, I just filter it through a few questions.
Yes,
So
it's good.
at the baseline, who is sharing the information and what are their credentials? Just gives you a good place starting from. Where are they coming from? Are they appropriately trained to give the level of advice that they're giving? Are they speaking within their scope of practice? And if not, then I'll just take it with a grain of salt. And then what kind of evidence is behind the claim that's being made?
Okay.
So not all research carries the same weight. And so at the lower end, you'll have professional opinions and personal experiences. Then you'll move up to survey findings and observational studies. Further up, you'll have controlled trials. And at the top, the gold standard would be that there's a systematic review, which is just a fancy way to say you're looking at controlled trials. Do they all kind of point to the same general consensus and conclusion? That would be perfect.
That would be perfect.
But that doesn't happen too often. And so when you hear something and it's called studies found, it just doesn't mean that it's strong, defendable, repeatable, or high quality necessarily, or even that it's applicable to you. That study could have been done on a totally different population. So
and I suppose with that studies found thing, if not that I'm a health influencer, but if I was a health influencer, I could go, studies found this, but the study could be from 15 years ago, and it's not up-to-date information. It's just information that I want to tell that fits the story that I want to share with you. Is that some of the challenges that we see in this space?
Yeah, I think because the influence of influencers and the level and amount of information that's out there's no one policing that. And so we do have to be our own kind of critical thinkers. No longer are we just going to a GP and they're giving us health information, or you're hearing it all the time. And so, it's definitely people picking and choosing, cherry picking information. But it's not to say that research that was done 15 years ago is necessarily not relevant.
Not relevant or
anymore.
not current.
Yeah.
Does that mean that sometimes that they are cherry picking information because they're being paid to do it?
Yeah, there's another question definitely is to ask yourself, is anyone making money from this recommendation? It doesn't automatically mean it's wrong. Absolutely, but it should prompt a pause, because financial incentives can shape how information is presented or framed. If something's worked really well for you, you can be very passionate about it, which is great. And I would like to think people have good intentions in sharing their story, but it goes a bit too far when you think that is now the blueprint for everyone. Everyone can just do exactly like I do and you'll look just like me, and that's selling a lie. So selling the lie, that's the challenge. That's kind of where all these questions come back to. If you were to give us one piece of advice on, maybe it's whether we have a conversation with a dietitian or we're just trying to assess how to get our diet and nutritional advice correct for us, what would that be? Yeah, I think first getting comfortable with that nutrition is grey. I think as humans, we like to have a black and white answer. And sometimes that pushes us to extremes. So first, it is grey, and that's okay. It's not a flaw. It's a human science, and humans are complex. What then you can do is take the step of, how do I get some clarity around, for me, what does that mean? Speak with a nutrition professional like a dietitian, and then use those filter questions like we just spoke about when we're consuming nutrition information. Hey, it's Doug from Mornings on Sonshine. Thanks for watching this video. Make sure that you like, comment, subscribe, do all those good things. Share it with a friend who might get something out of it, and I'll catch you in the next video.